Anybody here know what heartburn is? Have you had it so bad that it burns all the way up into your sinus cavities? Well, you know what? I want y'all to have heartburn today. So we're going to tell you a little bit about heartburn. This is not my talk. I stole it. No, I'm just borrowing it. I want you to go watch the real one. This was at a camp meeting at 3ABN a few years ago, and I'll give you a slide at the end, but look it up. It's probably 2 hours long, but I've abbreviated it, so we're not going to be here 2 hours. But it'll give you heartburn. So what is heartburn? This is a slide I found on the internet. You know, how many antacids are we consuming a year? 8,194 million pills or antacids are taken in a year's time. And it's the slide on, or the picture on the right with the bars showing what it's projected to be in 2029. North America is the biggest market for heartburn medicine, but the fastest growing market is in Asia, or the Asia Pacific division. Did you know there's heartburn in the Bible? John got heartburn. Chapter 10 of Revelation. You know you have to eat to get heartburn, right? So what are we going to have to do? We got to eat. Now, are we talking about food? Yes and no. So maybe the reason we don't get heartburn today is because we take so many pills. Antacids by the millions. But you have to eat if you want to get heartburn. So our goal today is to learn how to better eat so we have heartburn. Revelation chapter 10, verses 1 and 2 first says, I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow upon his head. And his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as a pillar of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth. Verses 8 to 10 says, And a voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again, and he said, Go take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter. But it shall be sweet in thy mouth, and thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I have eaten it, my belly was bitter. This little book, we believe, is the book of Daniel. It was sealed. But there's another story in Luke. You want to turn there because I'm not going to read it all, but then you can get the story. Another group, or two disciples, were walking to the road to Emmaus. But depression had set in. Jesus was dead. The story seemed to stop. What had happened to the Messiah? All hope seemed gone. For you see, the disciples were hopeless as the Messiah had been killed. The problem was not the death of Jesus, but the misunderstanding of the mission. Where are we today? Why is it that we are still waiting here for Jesus to come? Is it because we're not eating the right foods that cause us heartburn? Or are we numbing our heartburn with antacids of living for our own selves? Luke 24:27 says, In the beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Jesus came alongside these disciples, these guys. They didn't know who he was. But after he left, they got heartburn. It says, and they saw or said to one another, did our heart not burn within us while he talked with us by the way and while he opened to us the scriptures? The story seemed to stop. But let's look at another story. In Daniel chapter 5, there's a party going on. A king who defied the God of the universe, a symbol of Satan, which is the real king of Babylon. Belteshazzar, the third ruler of the kingdom, was having a party. He called for the golden vessels of God, used in the sacred service of the Jewish temple, which had been captured. He was partying while outside the city, an army was hoping to outweigh him and capture the city. But Babylon was well fortified. Much food was available for a long waiting period. Babylon was rich, increased with goods, and needed nothing, or so they thought. Meanwhile, while outside the city, Cyrus was working as a type of Christ to release his people who were captives in Babylon. What was Cyrus doing? Let's look and see. You all know the story. In Isaiah it says that confirmeth the word of his servant and performeth the counsel of his messengers, that saith to Jerusalem, thou shalt be inhabited, and to the cities of Judah ye shall be built. And I will raise up the decayed places thereof, that saith to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up thy rivers. That saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure. Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. Thus saith the Lord's anointed to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. Cyrus was going down into the deep, up and under the city. Now Belshazzar was having a good time. The wine was flowing. In that same hour came forth the finger of a man's hand and wrote against the candlesticks upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of a hand that wrote. The king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts were troubled, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against the other. How scared do you have to be to mess in your pants? Was he seeing things? He has to call the wise men, right? But only Daniel can interpret the vision. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. This is the interpretation thereof, the thing. Mene, God hath numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. In 2 Chronicles it says, now in the first year of Cyrus king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus the king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, thus saith King Cyrus, or Cyrus king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth hath the Lord God of heaven given me. And he hath charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all people, all his people? The Lord his God be with him. Let him go up. You see, Satan, the king of Babylon, took Christ's kingdom from him and is now mocking him before the universe. Jesus is outside of Jerusalem on the cross. As Cyrus is a type of Christ, he descended into the deep and opened the gates so the captives could go free. Jesus also descends into the deep and opens up the gates to set his captives free. And then he says, "It is finished." He then arose. As seen in the handwriting on the wall at the banquet, Belshazzar wrote in Babylon, "An unseen hand tears the veil in the temple from top to bottom." This is the same hand that wrote on the wall. Rome sought to stop Christ from coming from the tomb. It placed its mark on the tomb saying, "Do not touch, do not disturb," under penalty of Rome. But Rome could not stop that resurrection. An angel broke the seal and sat on the stone. And Jesus was released and rose from the dead. What's our mission today? Why are we still here? The story goes on here in Ezra. The first decree goes out. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah may be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation through all his kingdom and put it also in writing, saying, "Thus saith King Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with you. Let him go to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem." This is the first decree. In Ezra chapter 6, the second decree goes forth from Darius against the enemies of God that were slowing the progression of restoring the temple. Chapter 7 of Ezra, another decree goes forth by Artaxerxes to finish and restore the city, but the people failed to complete the work and needed another decree that's found and completed under Nehemiah. There's a pause in the work, a pause in the story. Do you like a good story that leaves you hanging? Do you wish to read the last chapter and find out what happens? We're going to pause this story for a moment. And we want to look at another story. The story of the Bible. Where does it all begin? Genesis. What's Genesis all about? Genesis is about a man named Adam who is created in the image of God. But there's another Adam, a second Adam, Jesus. What's the next book of the Bible? Exodus. What's Exodus all about? It's about a story of a man who was drawn out of the water, and he went into the wilderness for 40 years. And then he came out to deliver his people from Egypt. Jesus, after his baptism, went into the wilderness, and he came out to deliver his people. Leviticus is about the work of the priestly ministry for cleansing God's people. Jesus, the second Adam, began a work of cleansing the temple with a whip. Numbers is about a mission, leading 12 and calling 70. Deuteronomy is Moses' final sermon, where he repeats the covenant. He sings a song, and he goes out into the wilderness alone to die. He's buried, and he's resurrected. Jesus repeats the covenant. He sings a song. He goes out of the city. He dies, is buried, and resurrected. Joshua is about a man leading a people against the city, which brought the walls down with a great shout. Jesus on the cross cries, "It is finished." Judges. It's about 12 tribes that go forward without a physical leader to carry the message of Jesus to the world. And it continues. Ruth is a story about a Gentile woman who has a Hebrew mother-in-law who is working in the fields, bringing in the sheaves, who is seen by a man called Boaz, a type of Christ, who falls in love with a woman and wants her to be his bride. And she says, "Your God will be my God." The scene changes. The next few books are about a nation who comes up with a crazy idea. They want a king. They reject the priesthood in favor of a king, which unites church and state. The church under Constantine goes into the wilderness for 1,260 years. They're led into apostasy by mystery, Babylon. They come out of the wilderness in 1798 with 50,000 souls. The books of Samuel, Kings, and Chronicles show the struggles during this time. We reach back to Ezra again. 3 decrees go forth. Revelation speaks of 3 angels, messages that are going to the world. The first message is calling the people out of Babylon. The second message is against Babylon and the enemies of God. And the third angel starts a movement to finish the work. But wait, the work is not finished. Why? There's another need. There's another call. Nehemiah sends a message goes out for the 4th angel to get the work done. Why are we paused here? This is where we're at. We're stuck at the book of Nehemiah, waiting for that 4th angel to waken us up. Why are we not in heaven yet? What are we waiting on? But you know what? The story doesn't end there. Esther is about a death decree that goes out from God for God's people who keep the commandments of God and refuse to follow the law of the land. Job, a time of trouble. Psalms and Proverbs. We're studying Psalms, aren't we? We must have the wisdom of God to be able to stand. Song of Solomon is about a recommitment of love to a woman. The major prophets are about the second coming of Christ and his millennial kingdom. The minor prophets, they're about the justice of God and finishing up with Malachi. And I want to run through this again so that you maybe didn't catch it all the way through this story. Genesis is about a man named Adam who is created in the image of God, but there is another Adam also, a second Adam, Jesus. Exodus is about a story of a man who is drawn out of the water, goes into the wilderness for 40 years, and comes and delivers his people out of Egypt. Jesus, at his baptism, or after his baptism, went into the wilderness for 40 days, then came out to deliver his people. Leviticus is about the work of the priestly ministry for cleansing God's people. Jesus, the second Adam, began the work of cleansing the temple with the whip. Numbers is about a mission of leading 12 and calling 70. Deuteronomy is Moses' final sermon, where he then sings a song, goes into the wilderness, dies, buried, and is resurrected. Jesus does the same thing. He repeats the covenant, sings a song, goes out into the city, out of the city, dies, and is buried, and is resurrected. Joshua was about a man leading a people against the city and bringing the walls down with a great shout. Jesus won the victory on the cross when he said, "It is finished." Judges 12 are 12 tribes going forward without a physical leader carry the message to the world about Jesus soon coming. Ruth is a story about a Gentile woman, the new church, the church that's born after Jesus was here, from the Hebrew mother-in-law, Jewish nation. And she was seen by a man in the field working amongst the sheaves, a type of Christ who fell in love with the woman and wants to be her bride. And she says, your God will be my God. Samuel to Kings is a nation that comes up with a crazy idea. And the king unites the church and state, and the church goes into the wilderness for a 1260-year apostasy. 3 decrees in Ezra to rebuild Jerusalem, and yet it's not completed. Why are we holding back? What's the problem? The fourth angel is paused. Why are we paused here? Why are we not in heaven yet? What are you waiting on? But you know what? The story doesn't end there. We see in Malachi 4:1, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts. They will leave them neither root nor branch. But the story doesn't end here. Matthew through John talk about Jesus with us. The book of Acts is one language that unites us all. Romans to Jude, all kinds of different people come in unity and in one accord. The book of Revelation is a revelation of Jesus Christ, that we will be with him for eternity. This is the story of the Bible. How could we have ever known that the books of the Bible show the plan of redemption through the great controversy? We are to share the best wine ever with the world who is drunk with the wine of Babylon. Jesus talked about destroying the temple and rebuilding it in 3 days. The Jews asked, how is this possible? As it took 46 years to build the temple. Would you have known that from 1798 to 1845 is 46 years? Isn't it time to unpause the story and complete it? God needs us to be a Nehemiah to finish the story. What is going on, or what are we going to do to unpause the story and bring it to completion? We need heartburn. A burning desire to know Jesus and make him the center of our lives. How do you do that? We need to meditate on his word day and night. We need to look at the cross. We need to spend time with him. We need to stop the rat race of self-destruction and self-exaltation. We need him. I invite you to view Jesus on the cross, high and lifted up for you today. Let him fill your life with his goodness and his love. We need to empty ourselves out of ourselves and let him fill us up and seal us for eternity. Are you in? Do you need him more than anything today? I'm praying that way. We are locked in a world of self-centeredness, so deep that we think we are rich, we're increased with goods, and we don't need anything. Yet we're poor, wretched, blind, and naked, and don't even know it. Sin is so deceptive it makes you feel you're okay. But we need to wake up before it's too late. Jesus is knocking on the door. What is he waiting on? For you to open the door and let him in. He's just waiting for you to choose him today. He will not wait forever. So don't wait until it's too late. Let go of your pride. Realize your total need of him today. It is because we are deceived and asleep and won't wake up today and ask Jesus into our life. The signs are all around. The final movement has begun. Wake up and join that movement and stop being self-centered and egotistical. believing you are right and everyone else is wrong. He is pleading gently for me to allow him full reign of my life. What about you? I encourage you to look on YouTube and find the full version of my little short version here and get heartburn and be ready for Jesus to come. We have to get rid of ourselves.